welcome to Resource Review, the programme that brings you expert analysis and classroom trials for those essential resources. Today we're focusing on primary maths. Recommending today's resources is Wendy Fortescue-Hubbard, member of the Royal Institution Advisory Group for Mathematics. But you may know her better as the TES Teacher Mathagony Aunt. Alongside Wendy, we have Professor David Burgess from the School of Mathematics Education at the University of Exeter. Also on the panel, we have Adrienne Jones, a freelance education consultant. She's a former primary school teacher turned resource specialist. Wendy, as our maths expert, you've recommended quite a diverse range of resources here, ranging from a traditional old-fashioned board game to a website and this rather exciting negator. Is there a good diversity of resources available for primary maths?
There is a great diversity of resources for maths, and I think it's quite important to use lots of different things within the classroom. There seems to be quite a push for just using ICT, and I think that it's not about that. It's about bringing in lots of different materials to make that learning process much more exciting and appealing to all the different learning styles that you have within that classroom.
All right. Well, let's start then with perfect pairs. This is your first recommended resource. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Right, well, games are an excellent way of engaging children in mathematical conversation. It stimulates the mathematical conversation. It's really a very simple game. It's got two dials. You've got to mix up the numbers and add, subtract, divide, multiply to make the numbers on the board, trying to get 4 counters in a row. I'm the yellow ones and I've won, by the way.
Yes, well, as the expert, you should. Well, let's now go and see the resource in use in the classroom. We took perfect pairs to Barbara Primary School, where Deputy Head Teacher Jan Staff is using the resource.
You have to get 2 perfect pairs by spinning the spinner things. And you land on, say you land on 2 and 8, you can use all 4 mathematical operations to make a number, and you have to place your count on the answer.
This was a class, a mixed class of Year 5s, Year 6 children. All the children playing in groups at their own level.
Goes first.
To make it a little bit harder, the only mathematical operations you can use this time are multiplication and division. No addition, no subtraction. I think one of its greatest strengths is it's bright, it's colourful, easy to put together, there aren't too many pieces. And the children, when they first see it, actually comment on how bright and interesting it does look. In fact, every time we've had it out, they've said the same thing.
Yeah, 7 or 14.
My particular concern about this game is actually the manufacture of the spinners. The children can become quite enthusiastic, and the spinners could very easily be broken, I think.
I'm going to
Naomi, what are you hoping for?
A miracle. So either 17 or 11 or 7. 1, which is 3.
The children are practising their skills, but to them they're playing a game. They thoroughly enjoy it. It makes maths fun.
Wendy, the pupils were undoubtedly having fun there with perfect pairs. But I suppose the one thing that is, though, that you don't know how much the pupils are going to get out from playing the game. I mean, you're hoping to stimulate conversation, but if it doesn't happen, what can you do as a teacher?
I think within any game you get a conversation stimulated. I think you have to choose the game very carefully. I have seen some out on the market, which is, Adrian and David, I'm sure have seen the same, which if it leaves you cold, then chances are it'll leave the children cold as well. So if you think it's going to be fun, then you can put that enthusiasm into that game as well. I think that's quite important.
The other point about games is that they are fun. It's maths without really trying. You're just putting into practice what you've learnt in an engaging and interesting and fun way. And actually that's the best way to put your learning into practice.
David, what do you think? Is this enough learning, or is it just too much fun and not enough learning?
I'm certainly not against fun in mathematics. I think that's really important. I think my only sometimes worry about games is they perhaps don't have a clear mathematical reason for it. You can play games that require no strategy whatsoever, whereas you really want to learn how to win a game and mathematically what you're getting out of it.
One point that was highlighted in the film there was that perhaps the resource wasn't terribly robust. The spinners, the teacher thought that they perhaps might break. How would you come back to that?
Well, actually, I probably would have put in a 10-sided dice. We talked about that, didn't we?
Yes, I think that would make it robust, yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a particular worry. I would have thought it's quite easy to adapt it.
They also stick, actually. I was trying to spin that one, and it kind of always seems to stick on the floor.
Yeah. And they would actually, that's again, because that's quite an important point, because youngsters don't like to feel that somebody has an advantage on them. And if that happens, you'll find that will very quickly be put in the bin, because actually I aren't going to play this game, it doesn't work properly.
So actually in that sense dice would be much better, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And you could almost move on to probability with dice, couldn't you, about the probability, well, you know, what's the probability of getting a particular digit?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you all very much. Now let's move on to the second resource that Wendy has recommended for us today. Wendy, this is a website. Tell us about it. I mean, there are so many websites about there. Why this one?
This is actually really quite unique, because what happens...
Which one is it? Sorry.
It's Census at School. Okay. It's been developed by the Royal Statistical Society's Centre for Statistical Education. It holds a whole huge database of data. Students can go into the website, they can fill in their own online form. So, you know, I can have my height in there, and I can have colour of my eyes, etc., etc. So I can actually compare what's happening in my classroom with what's happening, you know, in another classroom somewhere in the UK. But better than that, I can actually go and compare my data with somebody in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, South Africa. So you can start to look at real cultural differences that might exist.
Well, before we discuss this resource any further, and I know you're very keen on this one, Wendy, let's now go back and see Jan's staff using Census at School with her class.
We have been doing some work in science on bodies, and I want the children to become familiar with Excel and what it can do. So I thought I would combine the two. Some wonderful suggestions for lesson plans on this website, which I have pretty well lifted straight off. I asked the children to measure various parts of their body, caused quite a bit of hilarity. We had circumference of thumb, wrist, one or two interesting findings there, waist, height.
33 centimetres.
So the children then took that data and entered it into the Excel sheet.
I'll just do the next one.
This website actually tells you and tells the children how you can calculate the mean, the mode, even the range. So today we started looking at finding the mean using Excel.
Make sure your label works so you know what the data means.
So let's go.
Let's go.
Great pluses is cross-curricular data handling. And if you actually go on the website, there are sections for geography, history, ICT.
Wendy, my impression from the film there is that Census at School is a vast resource. Is it perhaps a little bit overwhelming for the average teacher?
No, I don't think so. I think it's because there's lots of different activities in there, and you can explore maths. You can take there's measurements where you can. I think last year's, if I've got this right, last year's was belly button to floor compared to height to get an estimation for phi, which is actually quite fun. And they're going to be doing some more measurements next year on different parts of the body. So I don't know. What do you think?
It seemed to me quite an easy resource to use. In that sense, it's good. And if I'm trying to judge a resource, I was picking an ICT resource, I've got to think, does it excite the pupils? Does it motivate the pupils? is it easy to use, but above all, does it enhance teaching and learning? And I guess for my value, I think the number 4 is the most important one. I think this software does.
Adrienne, we saw there it being used as a teacher resource, worksheets being used for the class, but then the pupils very much interacting. This isn't simply a teacher resource, is it? It's a whole class
No,
resource.
that's what's good about it. Actually, it encourages teachers to actually enter data, join the census itself, and that kind of involvement means there's a sense of ownership, both with teachers and with the children.
You also saw them using Excel spreadsheet and
Yes.
they clearly understanding what it did. I mean, that's impressive.
Yes, at such a young age, that's fantastic.
Data might be very useful to commercial companies who are manufacturing school clothes, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. I
The free survey.
Yes. Well, we'll have them all going online now.
Just finally, one final question. It's a lovely resource, it's free, but how well is it linked to the curriculum?
Well, it's part of. I mean, it's written. It's got all within each exercise. They'll tell you how that's linked to the curriculum.
Right. Okay.
So it is tied in very well to the curriculum.
Brilliant.
And it's something that can be used right the way through. So it's a primary school, and it can be used in secondary school.
Great.
So that's what I think is quite important.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that. Now, let's move on to our third resource, something else to get our hands on, the negator. So, Wendy, tell us about this one. Looks quite exciting.
Well, actually, I think it is exciting. I like this. When I do positive and negative numbers, I used to get the children, I used to have a number line and going along a wall, and I'd have cards for the children, and those would be the instructions for them working with integers, and it was actually a direction. So if I was taking away, I was going in a negative direction. This actually does it much more easily because they have one that's this size, so they can play with this. They can go and find some answers, so I give them some problems and discover the rules. All you've got to remember is if I'm adding a number, then I'm going from 0 to the number, and they've got it written here. If I'm subtracting, then what I'm going is I'm going from the number to 0. So if I want to add 3, then I dial 3. I'm going to use my pencil here. If I then want to add 4, I'm going to dial 4. That's quite nice, isn't it? So I've ended up at 7. Right? Now, if I want to take away, say, 2, so I'm taking away this time, I'm going to dial, from 2 back to 0. So I get an answer of 5. OK, let's go and put this back to here. Now, this is the one that, what's minus negative number? Oh, the rule is that it's plus. Why? OK, well, let's go and have a look and see. Now, let's say that I want to take away negative 3. So I'm taking away, so I'm dialing from the number to 0. And I get an answer of 3, which I think is wonderful.
Well, thank you all very much. That's all we've got time for today. But just to recap, we've been looking at 3 resources for primary maths. The first of those resources was the board game, Perfect Pairs, the Census at School free website, and the negator. For more information about any of the resources that we've discussed here today and to post your own comments about resources for primary maths, you can go to our website, that's teachers.tv/resource review, or you can email us, we're at resourcereview@teachers.tv. So I'd like to say a big thank you to our expert panel for today, to Wendy, to Adrienne and to David. Thank you for watching and we'll see you next time on Resource Review. Bye-bye.